So we have talked some about y-intercepts, right? So today we're looking at x and y-intercepts. So the point at which the line intersects the x-axis here is called the x-intercept. And the point at which the line intersects the y-axis is called the y-intercept. So if we were to identify the x and y intercepts shown to the right, our x-intercept is right here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the point 8, 0. And we know we've talked a lot about how the x value of our y-intercept is always 0. And in this case, our y value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also 8. But notice how they're written. The y-intercept, x is 0. And the x-intercept, y is 0. So to find the x-intercept of an equation, we're going to substitute 0 or y for y. And to find the y-intercept of an equation, we're going to substitute 0 for x. Really though, if it's in slope-intercept form, we can figure out our y-intercept a little bit easier, I feel like. But let's practice that with this equation. So the x-intercept, we're putting in a 0 for y. So to find our x-intercept, we're going to say 0 is equal to 3x plus 6. Now we have a two-step equation. I know it's been a little bit, but we have to get rid of our constant first. So we're going to take the opposite of it from both sides. We're going to bring everything down. 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Bring down your equal sign. You're left with a 3x over here. To undo multiplying x by 3, we have to divide both sides by 3. So here, negative 2 is equal to x. So the x-intercept is negative 2, 0. Now we know this is in the slope-intercept form, so we should get 6, right, when x is 0, but let's prove that. For our y-intercept, if we substitute 0 for x, we have y equals 3. Remember, when we have a number next to a letter, that means we're multiplying. We're substituting 0 for x, and then plus 6. So when x is 0, y is 0 plus 6, which is 6. Okay, so when it's in this form, x-intercepts are a little bit harder to find, but we should be able to right away know our y-intercept, right? If we put 0 here for x, this would go away and we would have y equals 5. So if we put 0 for x, y is equal to 5. And to find the x-intercept, we have to put a 0 in for y. So when y is 0. So now we know when y is 0, what we've got to figure out what x is equal to. So we would subtract 5 from both sides. If -5 is equal to the opposite of x, 5 is equal to x, right? If we take the opposite of both sides. So if it's easier to start with our y-intercept since it's in this form, when x is 0, 0 times this makes this go away, y is equal to -8. To find our x-intercept, though, we need to figure out what x is equal to when y is 0. So we would say 0 equals 1/2 x minus 8. We have to remember how to deal with fractions. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. So 8 is equal to 1/2 x. So typically we would divide by the coefficient, but when it's a fraction, to divide by fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. So if we flipped this fraction, it's 2/1. That would give us 1x. So we have to flip it on both sides. We're multiplying both sides by 2. So here, 16 is equal to x when y is 0. Here, when x is 0 for our y-intercept, -4/3 times 0 makes this go away, and we're left with 2. We know that b is our y-intercept anyway. Our x-intercept, that's where we figure out what x equals when y is 0. So if I'm going to start up here so we have a little bit more room. 0 is equal to -4/3 x plus 2. So again, with two-step equations, we got to get rid of our constant first. So now I have -2 is equal to -4/3 x. So when we divide by a fraction, we multiply by its reciprocal. So -3/4. That makes these two cancel out and these two cancel out, and it becomes +1x. So whatever I do to the right, I have to do to the left. -3 divided by 4. This isn't that beautiful, is it? So if we think about this as 2/1, we could take a 2 out of the top and the bottom, and we're left with 3/2. Or you could write it as 1.5. Or 1.5. All right. Questions so far? We're doing okay? All right, so that's pretty much what we're gonna keep doing for these. Notice now, though, we have to solve. So our x-intercept, remember, is when x equals 0. So if we put in a 0 here, 0 minus y is equal to 2. So negative y equals 2, so positive y has to equal the opposite of 2. So this is going to be -2 here. And for our x-intercept, it's the x value when y equals 0. So here we have x minus 0 equals 2. So x is equal to 2. That one wasn't so bad. So our y-intercept is when x equals 0. So 3 times 0 minus 2y is equal to 12. So if negative 2y is equal to 12, we would just be dividing both sides by negative 2. So y is equal to negative 6 when x equals 0. Remember, our x-intercept is when y equals 0. So now we have 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 12. This becomes 0, so all that's left on the left is 3x equals 12. So we divide by the coefficient to figure out what 1x is, and that is 4. All right, so our y-intercept is when x is 0, 8 times 0 plus 10y equals negative 10. So this goes away. We're left with 10y equals negative 10. So if I divide by my coefficient of y, I have 1y is equal to negative 1. And for our x-intercept, we have to put 0 in for y. 8x plus 10 times 0 equals negative 10. This one's not going to be as pretty, right? Because we have 8x equals negative 10. We divide them both by 8. We have x is equal to negative 5/4. We divide them both by 2. Which is like 1 1/4. All right, so if we have 2 points, we can graph a line, remember? So we're gonna find the x and y intercepts and use those to draw a line. So here, if x equals 0, y equals what? 3. If y equals 0, x also equals 3. So from these 2 points, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 0, we can use a straight edge to draw a line. Now they all won't be as easy as this one. But we're gonna do exactly what we did for those first 6 to find them. So if we put in 0 for x, this goes away, right? So we're left with 5y equals 20. So if we divide both by 5, we're at y equals 4. So there's our first point at y equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we're putting a 0 in for y, this goes away, and we're left with negative 4x equals 20. So to find x, we would be dividing both sides by negative 4. 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. So now that we have 2 points, we have to plot negative 5, 0. So we're going from 0 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. All right, so once we have 2 points, we can draw our line. Does that make sense? Do you see how I'm shortening it a little bit by thinking about it and jumping to one step? We practiced going through that step with these few. Let's look at number 9. So if we're putting 0 in for x, this goes away, and we're left with that negative 15y equals 45. Right? Because 9 times x is 0. That goes away. Or 9 times 0 is 0, I should say. And then we would just divide by our coefficient. So we just need to know that negative 3 times negative 15 gives me that 45. So here our y value is negative 3. So you can pause for a minute if you want and plot that point. So if this is 0, we're going down 1, 2, 3 to where y equals negative 3. And then we have to figure out our x-intercept, and that is when y equals 0. So if y equals 0, negative 15 times 0 goes away, and we're left with that 9x equals 45. So we're figuring out what x equals now. The x value when y is 0. So we're dividing by the coefficient still, and x is equal to, bless you, 5. So we're going to plot that point. Starting at the origin, we're going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From any 2 points, we can draw a line. All right. And so we'll just proceed like that. If we put 0 in for x, we have negative y equals 7. If negative y equals 7, positive y has to equal negative 7. Now, if we have 0 in for y, ew, they did this to us. We have 2x equals 7. So we would divide both by 2, and x is 7/2. It might help you to know that that's 3 1/2. So you can write it as 7/2 if you want. But when we plot it, we kind of need to know where that's at, right? So let's start with our y-intercept. We're going to go down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Almost to the bottom. That's negative 7. And then we want where x equals 3 1/2. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then halfway between the next. That one's really not on a corner. But these 2 points are still going to make a line, right? All right, hopefully that's not too bad. I know you're kind of putting together things that we've learned. So these next two pages are going to mirror what we just did and all that practice. So you've got pages 6 and 7 today. You've got about 20 minutes. So get as much done as you can. Next week, we'll probably go about this same pace, but we will have kind of a work completion day. So if there's a few problems at the end that you don't get finished, don't freak out too much. We'll see where we're at by the end of next week. I'd like to get through this part and review and take a quiz before you go on spring break, though, which is not far away, thankfully, right? So a couple weeks. All right.